Just listen to this. My mother was critically ill at 90 with blocked gallbladder stones and high inflammation, so could not be operated on. She was saved by 1 tablespoon of castor oil taken over 3 days in the mornings. She passed the gallstones in her stool, and on the 3rd and 4th day, she was released from the hospital soon after. She was very lucky. My grandma lived to 103, and about 100, I asked her what her secret was. Her response? 1 teaspoon of castor oil every day. I used it to cure my daughter's eczema when she was 3. It never came back, and she is now 12. I mean, look at these comments. There's something here. I'm not exactly sure what, but there's definitely something. Now, I know how this sounds. It's like one of those scammy late night infomercials. This feels like the definition of snake oil, except it comes from beans. But there's actually tons of legitimate scientific studies on this stuff. Well, tons might be a bit of a stretch, but there are some studies to prove its efficacy in some scenarios. And we're gonna talk about what's been actually scientifically vetted and verified and what hasn't. It's crazy to think that there was a time when people thought meditation was a scam. It's just this weird spiritual thing. It's very woo-woo, all the hippies do it. And now there's tons of scientific literature to support the importance of meditation and the effect that it can have on the mind and the body. In fact, now I would go as far to say if you don't meditate, then you're the weird one now. So is that the case with castor oil, or is this just another fad? And are some of these crazy claims actually true? So I used to think that castor oil was just this thing that old women would rub on their face and use during their menstrual cycle, but I really couldn't be more wrong. While that may be true, it also has some extremely powerful properties that can be used for a whole host of other different applications. So I was recently encouraged by my functional medicine doctor and also my acupuncturist that my liver needs a little bit of support, and they both recommended, independent of each other, that I should use castor oil. So I went ahead and bought me this castor oil wrap and some castor oil from Queen of Thrones, which I'll put a link down below. You get a 10% discount code if you want. And I just put 1 tablespoon on here, and I just lather it on there. And all I have to do is take this thing right here. I'm just gonna put it on, boom, just like that. Wrap it up like that. And so I've been doing this now for over 30 days. I want to tell you a little bit about my experience and then share some of the benefits that I've noticed, as well as after I did the research, what I discovered, which was absolutely fascinating. Yes, I'm fully aware of how sexy this looks, by the way. I wanted to uncover for myself why both of these people were recommending this, and then also seeing all these crazy testimonials and anecdotes online about this powerful miracle sort of oil, and really understand what's at play here, what's going on. And by the end of this video, I bet you're gonna consider slathering this weird goopy substance onto your side, just like I do. Before we get into that, let's give some context. Castor oil is this thick, yellowy oil that comes from the castor bean, also known as Ricinus communis. And this little bean traces back 6,000 years, all the way back to ancient Egypt. And it's also an active component in many modern hair, skin, and pharmaceutical products. And if you're anything like me, you also probably believe that the ancient Egyptians were onto something. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to build those big pyramids. I gotta give credit where credit's due. When I was doing my research for this video, I stumbled upon this one video by this chick named Rundown with Rachel, and she broke down so much stuff about castor oil and did it in such an incredible way. So big shout out to you, Rachel, but I'm gonna pick up where she left off. Let me share with you what I discovered after going down the research rabbit hole. I discovered that this compound has an array of phytochemicals such as alkaloids, flavonoids, terpenes, saponoids, phenylatic compounds such as chamomile, garlic acid, ricin, rutin, lupil, ricinoleic acid, pinene, thuol, and gistic acid. I don't even know what most of these words mean, but basically it's got a lot of things that are apparently really good for you. And I know I mispronounced like half of those. And these phytochemicals have been responsible for many pharmacological and therapeutic effects. Anti-cancer, antimicrobial, anti-insecticidal, antioxidant, anti-diabetic, anti-contraceptive, anti-inflammatory, bone regenerative, anesthesiologic, how do you even say that? Analgesic. Anal? Or as my friend Rachel says in her video, it's got all the antis, at least the ones we want. Now, this powerful compound doesn't come without its potential risks. Let me explain. You see, this oil is so powerful that it can literally induce labor. So if you're pregnant or you're thinking about being pregnant, then I would think again when it comes to castor oil. The other thing to consider is that if you consume it orally, it can lead to toxicity issues, so best be warned. It seems like it's kind of like that, you know, too much of a good thing can become a bad thing, so I think that applies here. And if you have any medical conditions, then definitely 100% speak with a doctor before you ever introduce something new like this into your regimen. And a lot of people on the internet are just running around smearing this stuff on their face, rubbing it in their hair, drinking it bottoms up, and some of the claims that are being made are not necessarily substantiated by scientific literature. Seems like the biggest disagreement is between dermatologists and the natural people saying that it can clear up your acne. So I did my own research and I looked at Healthline, and what they recommend is that you just put it on a little bit of skin to test it and see how your body responds, which to me seems like the obvious thing to do. You know, don't just go lathering it everywhere, going gung-ho. Just take a small patch of skin and see if it works for you. I think with everything, there's always just a lot of nuance. What the dermatologists are saying is it's not this like one-stop shop that just fixes all acne. Depending on what type of acne you might have is gonna determine if this is appropriate for you or not. But I did find one study that I'll link up down below that says that it can reduce skin inflammation quite a bit. Also, the claims about the benefits for hair are unsubstantiated as well in terms of scientific literature. However, there's an immense amount of anecdotal data and testimonies of people having great results by putting it in their hair. Castor oil has proven to be very moisturizing, so depending on what you're dealing with, maybe that might work for you. But even though there's a bunch of claims that aren't backed up by scientific literature, there is a bunch of stuff that is backed up by scientific literature. Apparently it's really good for pain, really good for swelling, really good for wrinkles, really good for these sort of dark spots under your eyes. You know, I've never been one to do any type of like skin facial routine since I've always had really good skin, but you know, couldn't hurt. People also seem to be having great results with plantar fasciitis and arthritis and all the itises. It's supposed to be really good for the eyes, for your oral health. You can oil pull with it. It's good for stretch marks and scars. But even the use cases that I'm using it for, like the detoxification stuff on the liver, there's not really evidence to back that up either. But just because there aren't scientific papers to back something up doesn't mean it doesn't work. In my experience, usually the scientific literature is about 5 years, maybe even 10 years behind what's happening right now in terms of cutting edge science. Ironically, this isn't really a cutting edge science. This is something that's been around forever. It's been proven to have some benefits, and just there's nothing that's been studied to prove these other potential benefits that people are claiming. So I'm in the camp of, as long as I'm not drinking it and I'm not pregnant, which as far as I know, I'm not, it seems relatively safe. As long as you don't use too much of it, apparently that can lead to a little bit of a disaster pants. So we don't want that either. Because based on what I read, the beneficial properties that it has are incredible. So maybe as it gains more popularity, more studies will be done, and then we'll see, okay, what are the actual benefits that can be validated? So let's talk about what to look for when buying some castor oil. This is the Queen of Thrones brand, and what they do right and what you want to look for is that it's in a glass bottle, that it's amber, that it's organic, and that it's hexane free, and that it's cold pressed. So this is the good, link in the description with discount code, or find another brand that does all these factors. So make sure you get the good stuff. So how do you use it? You take the bottle, you pour it into a teaspoon, you take that teaspoon, you dribble it onto your castor oil pack, which is this like fabric that you tie around the side of your torso. You want it to be above your hip and right below your rib cage, and that's right where your liver sits. You're gonna wrap it around, press it against your skin, and then you're just gonna chill for the next hour or so. Let that castor oil seep into your skin and do what it does best, and then you can take it off, wash your skin, wipe it down, and you're good to go. So I wanna tell you about my experience using castor oil now for over 30 days, and it's been pretty simple. So it's a bit cool to your skin when you put it on. And what I noticed is that there's a 10 to 15% soothing feeling. So it's nothing crazy, but I do notice I feel comforted when I'm wearing it. And it definitely improves my sleep, it improves my digestion, and it makes me feel more relaxed in the evening. And as subtle as it might be, the sensation that I got is that everything was just kind of working better, if that makes sense at all. I'm not drinking it, I'm not putting it in my hair, I'm just wrapping it around my side, and sometimes I even fall asleep with it, but I wouldn't recommend that because I did that a few times and I got oil all over my bed. Apparently you get most of the benefits in the first hour, so going to sleep with it might just be overkill. So how does this stuff actually work? Say it with me, ricinoleic acid. Okay, so that's one of the compounds inside of castor oil that makes it so powerful. This is where the anti-inflammatory and pain reduction properties come from. Apparently it can help with cell signaling and can even change gene expression. Sometimes I laugh when I find these things that are just perfectly created in nature to create certain results for us. It makes sense why it's in a bunch of products and pharmaceuticals. You know, whenever people are claiming like this new panacea of health that's like a cure-all for everything, I always throw up my guard. I'm like, okay, snake oil salesman on the way. And it's so easy to dismiss these kind of things. But with this one in particular, there actually is some research to support some of these incredible properties. And yes, there's not very much research and there's more research to be done. And look at these comments, look at these anecdotal testimonials. It's insane. Like, it literally makes you think like, wow, like there's gotta be something here, right? Otherwise, this many people wouldn't say that it's this good. How many other things did people think were weird or fringe or didn't have enough data to back it up that are now really popular that have been scientifically validated? My experience has been good and it seems to be helping for what I need it for. Was it mind-blowing or anything revolutionary for me? No. It was, if anything, just really subtle and it was nice, but nothing to shout out from the rooftops about. But I like it. And it's this easy thing to do where I just wrap it on my side and I go about my evening routine and it just is doing its work while I can do other stuff. And as long as you're not drinking it and you're not pregnant, it doesn't really seem like there's much downside. And I think it could be especially helpful for some very specific use cases. That's it for this video. I know if you like this one, then you're definitely gonna like this one. Go click this video right now and I'll see you over in that next video. Take care and be well.